Thank you. When we look at, again, I want to go back to the statistics and talk to the chairman, the executive secretary of UBEC. I believe the government is trying, but the challenge is huge. Can you, sir, Mr. Dr. Dikko Suleiman, can you please tell us what are the new initiatives? This morning, the former Minister of Education told us in 2006, already most of the challenges that we are dealing with today are highlighted. I would like to know how, through the different interventions, for example, UBEC is addressing the challenges that were highlighted yesterday and today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the moderator and my colleagues here. The federal government of Nigeria is really trying very well in funding education, as mentioned by a speaker here just some couple of minutes ago, that funding education is not only the means by which we can move the educational system of this country forward. It is, of course, part of it. And I'm glad to inform you that between the year that the moderator mentioned to date, federal government has released 238 billion naira into education sector. And this money is sent to the states, and the states will have to give their own counter funding before they access this money. And there are conditions and working plan that they have to follow after assessing these funds, ranging from building new schools, renovation the old ones, providing furniture, training the teachers, in-service training as well, EECD, although Professor Banya last time said federal government in the public schools are operating ECCD, but the public did not know. It's part of the intervention of the federal government and a program that is initiated to catch them young from the beginning. Sorry, if I were to go back a little bit and inform the public that currently in our public schools, we have EECD classes up to 22,345 classes for EECD. And then the enrollment there is 2,994,734 children enrolled into the pre-primary schools, classes in our public schools. The reason may be why public are not aware of the existence of this ECD is that most of our children, the educated ones, the elites, are not in the public schools. So that is why most of us are not aware of what is going on in the public schools. Of course, federal government released such huge sum of money, but if the money judiciously utilized, this is the question. Federal government released the money to the states, and there are conditions to assess that money, and there are conditions to use that money. And once the money is assessed, then there is a working plan which the states and the UBEC, that is our commission, will sit down and agree upon. And thereafter, there is what you call follow-up supervision of whether the state is following that plan judiciously or tenaciously. And in each step in that action plan, we make analysis and see what is invested there, does it yield any positive result or not? Because that will inform us on whether to change the action plan pattern next year or not, or to continue with the action plan for a certain period of time. Out of these funds, certain factors are taken care of, as I said, like constructions, the supply of furniture, the supply of instructional materials like textbooks, and of course, the running of the EECT Center. Other areas of interventions include the Almajiri education system. When the 10 million out-of-school children syndrome was propagated, I call it propagation because if we were asked to, the person that wrote that figure to tell us exactly, statistically, how did he arrive to that figure? He cannot, because we know it. The federal government now initiated programs by which we can mop up those children on the streets. In particular, we realized that most of them are the Almajiri children. So they initiated the Almajiri program, whereby the Almajiri will now come into the school, learn his own religious education, which is put as his priority, and then including the Western education. So this idea of bringing them into the formal schooling system, they will be fed, uniform free, everything of theirs is free, and it is a boarding school, so that we can motivate them to come to the school and to remain in the school and to learn in the school. Then there is what we call boy-child education in the South. That is a vocational schools that are established for the children that are roaming the streets, hawking or on economic purpose.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. With the last sentences, we start hearing Dr. Dikko recognizing the need to attend to diverse learners. I would like to turn to Dr. Mairo Mandara. One of the aspects that our keynote speaker highlighted are some of the cultural factors hindering access to education. I would like for us to discuss the question of relevance, the question of quality. Are we taking into consideration the socio-cultural factors in delivering quality education? What can we do to address the needs of diverse learners? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think if you refer back to the map that Christian shared with us, showing the educational level of the various states in this country, you would see that it is lowest in the northeast and north-south, and northeast and northwest. And this is historical, and this comes to the issue of what our chair has referred to in looking at the socio-cultural context. If I come from those parts of these countries, but imagine, just forget we're here, take back yourself to a remote village in Borno State where I come from, or to a similar remote village in Sokoto, a place where there's no electricity, where there's no water, a place where people have not gone to Maiduguri or have not gone to Sokoto, a place where people live their own lives. And then, without prior knowledge of what is happening anywhere, somebody comes in to that community, somebody they do not trust, somebody who has no history of equity, and somebody, which is most important, who has no respect for their culture. And there they are. There's this good thing called education being brought in a platter of gold. And the person bringing the education on a platter of gold is totally foreign. They see that as the epitome of disrespect, of lack of value. How do you see people responding to that? But the worst part of it is that in discussing such situation, there's no empathy, there's no understanding. We expect everybody, I expect every woman in the village to think like me. And so therefore, if she fails to think like me, I describe her as ignorant, I describe her as backward. Unfortunately, this is the arrogance that comes with education, and this is the arrogance that comes with us that are educated. I'm just saying this as a background. So therefore, in looking at the socio-cultural milieu of education, what I'm trying to say is that we need to be sensitive to the needs of the places where we serve. For example, a simple act of allowing a girl to tie her tie to go to school is likely to increase enrollment in places where these things are important. A simple thing of creating separate toilets for boys and girls is likely to increase girls' enrollment. A simple thing about female teachers in primary school will create confidence and acceptance of the fact that it's okay, my daughter will be looked after. But most importantly, we need to begin to bring into the fold of advocacy for education, or bringing people to the forefront of education, our traditional and religious leaders. During the colonial period, traditional leaders were the custodians of education. They go around to make sure children go to school. They go around to make sure teachers are in school. They make sure hospital workers are in school. So those values, we may not like it, it may not be what we want, but the reality is we need to begin to look at education not from the perspective of you and I, but from the perspective of the people we serve. And getting ourselves to look from the perspective of the people we serve, their culture, their religion, their beliefs, I think will give us will leapfrog us into inclusion for those areas where culture is so important. Thank you.
I would like to turn to Maryam Uwais, Chairperson Isa Wali Empowerment Initiative Kano. We have less and less minutes. Can you tell us what are you doing in an area like Kano to get mothers back to the learning situation so that they can empower their children by allowing them to go to school and helping them there?